Hello everyone. I sound like rubbish because I have bronchitis again, and so I will be spending a few days at home while the medication kicks in, and hopefully I get my voice back because I'm supposed to be presenting on Friday. It's Monday now, so fingers crossed. Welcome to another vlog. Happy Pride Month. I am hoping this vlog sees the light of day, and yeah, I didn't do my intro at all. Hi, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and I read a lot of books here. If you couldn't already tell by the title, today this vlog is going to feature a number of sports romances. So queer sports romances. Because I have a few arcs, I have a couple of pre-orders, and I have some things that have been sitting on my TBR for a while that I would like to get to. And I'm grouping them together because why not? One of the books that I have on the TBR is In Your Court by Kit Haley. And now the camera is flashing at me. Why? Alright, so I'm back. I was saying In Your Court by Kit Haley. Australian author, queer tennis romance. And before you say, Steph, you hate tennis. Yes, of course I still hate tennis. But apparently I'll read it because I read 30 Love earlier in the year, loved it. I am going to read this, and I also have The Open Era as well on pre-order because I've been super keen on trying that one. That will feature in this vlog. It comes out in a couple of days. I did pick up In Your Court. I bought it from the author and it came with some fun art prints and a letter and a bookmark, and we love fun things like that. It also has a sticker that I tried to save. I don't know if it's going to focus. Anyway, it's not really safe for work anyway, but I did try to save it and ended up ripping it in half, so I think I'm going to try and rescue it again and just stick it back together. As I said, I've also got The Open Era. I also have Hold Me Like a Grudge, which I got as a NetGalley arc. Really keen to give that a try. And then two books that I've had for a little while. The Reckless Love Omnibus by Saxon James. This is kind of the last thing that I have to read by Saxon James, I think. So this is 2 novels and a novella, and is American football, I think. And then Playing at Home by Calder, which is the one that I think I'm going to read tonight because it's a little bit shorter. And this one is New Zealand rugby. And we know I've had really good success with Calder, so let's kick off Pride Month with a trusted author. I don't remember anything about this. I did get it at Rare. So one of the main characters is rugby royalty, but isn't quite as successful as his dad was on the field, and I think he falls for his kid's nanny. It sounds like it's going to be fun and cute, so I shall update you when I start reading. Alrighty, so I finished Playing at Home. It is about Jacob, who is a rugby player for New Zealand. He is the son of a very famous rugby player, and he's constantly trying to live up to his dad's reputation, but he's not as good a rugby player as his dad, and he knows it, and you know, he is grappling with that. He is also the dad to twin girls who are 3.5 at the start of the book and turn 4 through the course of the book. He's separated from his wife. Well, they're divorced, but they share the same house. They just alternate the weeks where they care for the girls. His ex-wife is an actress, and so they have another apartment that they alternate living in, the house and the apartment, when it's their turn with the girls. And Matilda, his ex-wife, has just hired a new nanny, a male nanny, and his name is Austin. And Austin is originally from New Zealand, has come back from the UK where he was nannying for a family, and he happened to be in a relationship with the father of the kids that he was looking after, but it came about after the parents had split. But it was very messy, and it was not a serious relationship. The majority of this book, it is very slow burn. It is very much Jacob and Austin becoming friends first. Austin gets along really, really well with the girls. The girls absolutely adore him. And Jacob is adored by his girls. They love him to pieces. And yet eventually they fall into this relationship, and Jacob realizes, well, he's known for a while that he's not just attracted to women, he's always been attracted to men. He actually comes out to Austin as the first person and says, hey, I think I might be bisexual. And that's kind of where that relationship starts. Through the course of this book, another couple in the rugby world come out as queer. I'm assuming that's the first book in the series because I'm pretty sure this is the second one. Jacob is witnessing their relationship and realizing that maybe there might be some positive support for queer players within the sport. And so that kind of prompts him to consider, you know, his relationship with Austin and what he wants to do with that. There is a subplot in here with Austin's gran, who is the person who raised him, who is getting older and is diagnosed with Alzheimer's during the course of the book and goes wandering and missing through the course of the book as well. So just be mindful of that if that is at all a trigger for you. And there is a little bit of drama with Matilda finding out that Jacob is sleeping with the nanny. The thing that I kind of liked about this is that Matilda it would have been very easy to write her off as the jealous ex. And she is, in some ways, that character, but she's more than that. She's a very complex character in her own right, who is trying to find a way to move on in life and questioning her choices and trying to make sense of where she is in her life at this point in time as well. So I do appreciate that. Even though we don't get her perspective, we get enough of her storyline to know that she's just not a two-dimensional kind of character through the whole course of the book. And I love the kids. The kids in here, like, they were just precious. They're not actually in it a huge, well, I mean, they're in it a lot, but they're not huge, massive characters, but they are a really good kind of contrast to sort of some of the other stuff that's happening in the book. I really enjoyed it, and it was nice to try a longer form Jax Calder because I've mostly only read Jax Calder's novellas. So yes, I might come back to this series at some point because there's book 1 and there's a book 3, and I'm curious now that I know these characters. I shall update you when I read the next book that I'm planning to read for this vlog. Hello friends. So I've started reading Hold Me Like a Grudge by Celine, which was originally up for pre-order, then got cancelled. There was no explanation. And it's now up on NetGalley. And I'm about 45% of the way into it. It is a queer wrestling story, and it's really good so far. I'm really enjoying it. We are following Asher, who is kind of up and coming in the professional circuit, and he is, you know, elevated to the next level, and he comes face to face with his previous idol, Asher, who is kind of the world title holder, and Asher happened to have a really bad interaction with him as a fan at one point, so there is this rivalry. It is very much a rivals, two idiots, two lovers story. So far we haven't even hit the lovers side of the story at 45% in. But what we know is Asher is very much up and coming. He is very progressive and he is very innovative, and he gets along great with everyone else who is part of the crew. And Asher has basically been under the thumb of the guy who runs this group and has pretty much been under a tight leash the entire time, and is very much a bit of a sad boy in this case because he might hold the title, but he's done it because he's been told to do some things and basically had his paycheck and his livelihood held over his head if he doesn't do them. He kind of keeps himself separate from everyone else, and slowly those barriers are coming down. And after a fight when he basically betrays Asher in the ring, he feels very, very guilty about all of that. And then in another fight that they're in, Asher is unintentionally injured as a result of his actions, and he almost drops the act in the performance. And then after that basically takes time off the circuit to stay with Asher and to look after him while he's healing from a concussion. So that's kind of where I am in the story. They're just, Asher's just been cleared to go back to fighting. So I'm going to eat some lunch and then I'm going to continue the story because I'm really enjoying it. The writing's great. Alrighty, so I finished Hold Me Like a Grudge. It was great. Well worth the wait. Well worth it being re-released in whatever format it is now being released in. While I was having lunch, I was doom scrolling, because of course I was. And I did come across a reel where someone was saying that it gave them the kind of same feelings that you get from Heated Rivalry. Not that it's the same storyline or the same plot or anything like that. They're just individuals who happen to start off as rivals. And it does have that vibe. It has kind of that extended found family vibe that you get through the rest of the Game Changer series. So if you are someone who likes that found family aspect, the entire story is full of queer characters. It talks about the queer history of wrestling. It was delightful. Like the ending, was it a little bit predictable in that kind of uplifting way of people standing up for who they are and what they believe in and the rights of others? Yeah, sure. But it's nice to have those stories because it does give people hope that more of that will happen. So while it may be fiction, you are kind of hoping in reality that more of this happens and happens visibly. But yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that the audio picks up my voice because even though I can hear myself, it's taking a lot to project. So yeah, I really enjoyed Hold Me Like a Grudge. Glad I read it, and bring on the next queer sports romance. Hi, an update to this vlog. I did start reading the Reckless Love Omnibus by Saxon James. I'm really just not feeling it at the moment, so I am calling this a soft DNF. A soft DNF because it's Saxon James, and I don't know whether it's just because I'm feeling off and it's just not the right combination of things for me. I did read the prequel novella, which is Denial, which is about Rainier, who is the best friend of the main character of the first book in the series, which is Risky, which I did start reading, but I just was not feeling it. But Rainier is a trust fund baby who literally goes off the rails and ends up in Ibiza and meets the love of his life there. It's a very short novella. It's not sports related at all, but he's the best friend of Elliot, who is one of the main characters in Risky, who falls for a professional NFL player. Soft DNF, I'm keeping it because it's Saxon James and I want everything that Saxon James has written, but not going to read it. I am, however, going to start reading In Your Court by Kit Haley. It's at the moment, it's a coin toss as to whether I read this or the open era, and they're both queer tennis romances. But while I do have the physical book, I am going to read it on my Kobo because I got the ER Crimna Galley as well, and I just think this is going to be easier to hold and also to concentrate on. I am feeling better. I seem to have picked up a cold on top of bronchitis, which is delightful. I say that and I'm about to have a coughing fit, but also a bit lightheaded today, so just taking it easy. I do have a telehealth appointment a little bit later today because I need another medical certificate, because I was supposed to go back to work yesterday and I tried. I went there, I lasted less than an hour, and then I had to come home. I just couch, blanket, reading, naps. That's my life for now, because I am not a fully functioning human being, but I am one who is going to attempt to read at least for a little bit. So I will update you a little bit later with some information about In Your Court. And I've heard really positive things about it, so fingers crossed, because Australian author, I would really, really, really like to have another win for this vlog. I'm back and I still can't talk without descending into a coughing fit. I finished In Your Court by Kit Haley. It was excellent. I still cannot stand tennis, but this book, excellent at the moment. It's the first book that I want to put on my best books of June list, so if that says anything, I don't know. I really, really love this. It is about Matteo, who is an Australian tennis player who's been on the circuit, won some junior Grand Slams, and then as he was building his ranking when he first started playing in the adult tournaments, he was involved in a car accident and basically spent a number of years building himself back up to where he was previously. And he's finally starting to get there when at one of the first tournaments, what is it, France? The French Open, he ends up playing Miles, who is an American tennis player who is also up and coming. They played together a lot in the juniors, and Matteo used to always be able to beat him but hasn't been able to do it since. There's a number of kind of subplots. The first one being that Matteo is outside the top 100 rankings. In fact, I think he's something like 180 or 190. And so he travels to the tournaments without a coach or without any staff with him, so he's on his own. And when Miles wins, they're kind of niggling at each other after the game. And Matt basically says, you have never had to try and do this without money or a team behind you. And the next tournament, Miles takes that as a challenge, and so he leaves his coaching team and his coach and his entire team behind, and has to kind of try and survive a tournament on the same budget that Matteo survives on, because Matteo doesn't make a lot of money from the sport at this stage. And that kind of puts them into a bit of a forced proximity situation, and it's actually Miles who makes the first move, because Matteo is the first out queer player on the circuit. No one else has come out since. He didn't want to hide, so he came out as soon as he started playing professionally. But Miles is actually the one who makes the first move. And the further we get into the story, we understand that Miles, his family, and sort of the pressure behind him, the current coaching team and support team that he has is very toxic. And so he doesn't come out, because everything, his career, the money that he makes, everything is tied up, his family, very, very tightly controlling. But Matt and Miles's relationship is just, it's great. Like, it's wonderful. And they're two idiots who don't know how to talk to each other until they're forced to talk to one another. Like, one of the best sequences in the book, because it's quite a long book. It's over 460 pages long. Like, their biggest challenge is that they constantly face the pressure of once they're in a relationship, they're almost but never quite playing each other in games until it comes to the US Open, which is Miles's home turf, and he's the highest ranked US player, and they're coming up against playing one another, and Matt wants to talk to him about it, and they don't talk about it. And, you know, the fallout from playing each other at a high level in games, and what happens when one person wins and one person doesn't, and kind of the psychological effect of that is really interesting. What I do love through the course of the book is that both of them end up with really supportive coaching and support teams and support networks. They have good people around them. They do just, you know, slowly work their way into their relationship. Like, their first I love you scene is fabulous, because it comes in a really innocuous moment while Matt is trying to bake brownies for Miles, and it's a kitchen disaster. Not because Matt can't bake the brownies, but there's a bit of a disaster in the kitchen. And it was just the perfect scene. And also Miles's grand gesture for Matt as well. And his willingness to be ready to come out and share his truth and his life with other people, like, it was amazing. I was teary and I loved it. I didn't want to put it down. I just wanted to keep reading. Like I said, it is a long ass book, but it was great. And, you know, for someone who absolutely loathes tennis, to say that this will probably be a top book at least of this month, if not for the year, that is saying something. I don't know if you take my word on anything. Debut Australian author. Excellent book. Hi everyone. So I read The Open Era by Edward Schmidt, which is his debut queer tennis romance. This one is a very, very, very different vibe to In Your Court, despite having a similar sort of plot set up in terms of rivals to lovers kind of story. And I will be perfectly honest and say I walked away from this one going, is this a romance question mark? I'm not even convinced it ends on a happy for now, but I'll come to that. So this one is more new adult in that our main character is 20 and his rival is 23. We have Austin, who is the first openly queer player playing in a Grand Slam. He deals with anxiety. He lost his dad a number of years earlier and he's dealing with a lot around that. And a big part of his story is that his coach puts him into, well, tries to get him into therapy, particularly as he, you know, gets out of qualifiers into the US Open. Along the way, he becomes friends with Diego, who is the world number 2 from Mexico. And the two kind of become friends. And they sort of end up figuring out that Diego may be interested in guys as well as girls. And the conversation that they have around that, like, it felt very unfinished. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think when you're talking about professional sports and the fact that they are very, very openly hostile, quite frankly, to queer men, despite the fact that you have a number of queer athletes, but they'll always talk about the first queer man setting the boundaries, despite the fact that women have been doing it for years. Anyway, so like there's that whole thing. But even though there is a romantic subplot, it doesn't feel like a romance, because a big part of this is Austin, his anxiety, his therapy, the way that he's building into playing into these games till eventually he's facing Diego in the 4th round. It doesn't quite go the way that he expects it to go at all. And there's this constant push and pull in their relationship as they have these small moments and then Diego might ghost him. And then that just sends Austin spiraling. And I don't love that as a dynamic, even though I understand kind of where it's coming from. I don't love it in a book. And there's lots of reasons why that happens. Like Diego's dog dies through the course of the book. And so he's dealing with the grief of that. And because we're always in Austin's head and never in Diego's head, it's kind of hard to balance out that kind of dynamic. Whereas like In Your Court is fully single POV, we're always in Mateo's head. And I don't want to compare the two books, but I think I'm going to have to just kind of share why my reaction to them is different, because both of them are single POV, so we're only in the perspective of the character that the author wants us to be in the perspective of. Whereas I think in Your Court, we got to see a lot more of Miles's personality and who he was and what he was struggling with. We don't really get that because Diego is sort of this icon in Austin's mind. And so Austin is very much caught up in his own thing. He's not struggling with being an out gay player, but he's struggling with the way that everyone perceives that and the questions that they ask on top of his own mental health things. Also, I will say The Open Era is a much more contained story in that it only takes place over the US Open, whereas In Your Court takes place over the course of a series of tournaments, so there is a longer period, whereas this one, I can understand why this isn't a straight up romance, because there's not enough time. They're literally together for 2 weeks. And by together, I mean every other day, maybe, unless one of them is ghosting each other, and then it goes a longer period than that. It's kind of hard to talk about it as a romance, because what I will say is it's very well written for a debut. I think it looks very much at the emotional impact of playing professional sports, particularly if you're not ready, if you're not in the right headspace. I think it does address a lot of the issues about queer players in professional sports and the spotlight that is placed on them, and also the commentary around it. I think there's a lot of really nice things that are done with that in terms of the impact it has on fans and things like that, and the little moments that Austin sees beyond just the media coverage. Ironically, it does look a little bit about the issues with social media and how that can really feed into someone's psyche if you are not mentally prepared to deal with seeing your name in print all over the place and people saying whatever the hell they want. The cover of this book is absolutely stunning. I think the entire premise of the book is great. I think I would have liked to have seen Austin and Diego's story over a number of games, like tournaments, but I mean, we get what we get. And I think if you are going for your emotional, hard-hitting, fully impact, like I was tearing up reading The Open Era, because what the boys go through is hard, because they are in the spotlight and they are faced with impossible choices and having to make decisions, even if they're thinking one thing and they want to do something else. Like they're in an impossible position and it's hard and they're only young. If you want a really steamy queer tennis romance, you're going to go within your court. It is a lot lighter. It doesn't mean that there aren't the same elements. There are still elements of anxiety, dealing with being the first openly queer player and hiding a relationship and all of that. All of that is in your court, but it feels lighter. Depending on where you are, that might be how you decide between the two books. I think they're both excellent for what they are. I think some of the marketing around the open era has been a little bit misleading, but it is being traditionally published. So, I mean, I have more issues with marketing for traditionally published books than I do for indie published books. I think indie published books, they tend to be marketed to the right audience better. So that's just another aside. I know I was going to end the vlog after this video, but because I DNF'd the Reckless Love bind-up, I'm thinking that I'm going to include one more book. And it's going to be a book from a series that I've already started that I need to finish reading this year. It's Becca Jackson's Banana Ball series. I'm going to read book 2. That way we get a different sport. Right, hello. I am here to wrap up this reading vlog. Yes, I have wet hair. Is it a vlog if I do not have wet hair? So I read the final book today, which was Totally Geeked by Becca Jackson, which is book 2 in the Love and Play series. That's what it's called, which is a series that follows Banana Ball players. Now, I will say this one didn't feature a lot of Banana Ball in it. It is mostly sort of set outside of the gameplay because the season is just starting. In it, we are following Harrison, who is a character who is very much has been a playboy and is really starting to get sick of hookup culture and things like that, and is desperate to kind of find someone to settle down with. But he is really known for hooking up and just being the total playboy, and all of his friends are constantly commenting on that. He ends up falling for his best friend's younger brother, Arlo, who is a children's author. Is at the start of this book. Arlo's book is just about to come out. It's a picture book all about Banana Ball and based on his older brother, Gordy. And Harrison and a number of the other players all feature in the book, and he's planning on writing sequels to it. And we find out Arlo is very, very accident prone. His brother is very overprotective of him. And Arlo is also very, very nervous about going to his first author event where he's going to be reading his book and signing copies of it. And Harrison ends up taking him through a series of events that we find out very early on, and then continues to go with Arlo as his kind of good luck charm to future readings and signings. And it's a very cute kind of fluffy story because initially Harrison starts helping Arlo to learn how to flirt better because Harrison is an incurable flirt. Gordy has warned Harrison off of flirting with his brother. They end up, you know, falling for one another. They end up sleeping together when they stay overnight at a hotel and end up with one room by accident. But anyway, it was very light-hearted. And sort of the external conflict is more Gordy blowing up at Harrison and Arlo for being in a relationship and not telling him, which he rightly then gets told off. And both Harrison and Arlo have to, you know, have some words with Gordy about reminding him that Arlo is an adult in this situation and that Harrison is not playing around with him. Sorry if you can hear the motorbike outside. This motorbike drives me nuts day in, day out because they live somewhere in this building. And it's always very inconveniently timed. A really cute, fluffy time, a good way to end this reading vlog. A good book for today. I didn't need to concentrate too much because I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Yesterday was after I finished reading The Open Era. I was not good. I was not good. I've got a public holiday tomorrow, so I've got another extra day to recover before I go back to work. And so, fingers crossed. 5 books read, 1 DNF, mostly positive results. In your court, standout book. I'll be perfectly honest to say, like, it's not going to be the most perfect book ever written. It's a debut book. But in terms of the fun that I had while reading it, I will take that as my win. And yeah, we're going to attempt a sapphic reading vlog next. I've got to go through my list. I think I said I was going to do sapphic sports romances, but I think I might just go through different types of sapphic romances that I've got on my TBR, including some sports ones. On that note, in the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking any of them up? Feel free to let me know. Otherwise, feel free to leave an emoji representing your favorite sport down below. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.